Hey, good to see you here. This is Michael from Make It WordPress, and I'm on the quest to find the best of WordPress. And this video is about Google Analytics alternatives. Did you know that Google Analytics may soon be forbidden or illegal in Europe? It already is in Austria and probably in France, and other European countries may soon follow. So it's due time to look into what privacy-friendly Google alternatives are there. So in this video, I'll be sharing some of these examples and briefly walk through them. All right, here we go. This is the first alternative of the list of all alternatives, and it's called Matomo. And Matomo has a very extensive, it's the most extensive Google Analytics alternative that I have found, and they have two ways of actually using them. You can try their cloud offering where they install Matomo, or you can use the on-premise offering where you install Matomo yourself on your own server. And there's also a WordPress plugin that you can install on WordPress to catch your statistics, and that's the one I used. So and briefly, Matomo gives you an extensive dashboard with all kinds of features. You also know from Google Analytics, such as visitors, behavior, acquisitions, and so forth. If you look at their live demo, we can see it's actually pretty extensive. All right, here we are. This is Matomo, and it has been fully loaded for the past week. It's working well, it's looking nice, and just let's have a brief view into it. So I actually must say the Matomo WordPress plugin is pretty nice because it's just a plugin, but it gives you access to almost all of the functionalities of the Matomo packages, and you don't need to install it on your own server. It's just a WordPress plugin. So the first screen you will see is the dashboard, which gives an overview of the most visited URLs pages, where visitors are coming from. In this case, most of my visitors are surprisingly from India. And also the acquisition and the visitors' behavior. So how many visits, how long are their visits, the bounce rate, their actions, and so forth. So let's see what sections we have here on the left. So there's this visitor section, which is basically all about the visits on the website. Here's the summary. There's this log where you actually can see all the actions visitors did. So what kind of URLs they visited, what I did. In this case, someone visited the ploy review and refreshed the page, which is kind of interesting. As you can see the location and also the IP address, but it's anonymized to a certain extent. So the last two parts of the IP are not visible. There's a real-time visitor log as well. Currently, there is not a real-time visitor, I believe, and also a map where you can see the latest visitors are coming from actually. I think this is already very nice and pretty elaborate. Furthermore, you can dive into more into locations, into continents, countries. You can even click on a country and then see from which regions someone is even coming, and also see when and what someone from that region visited your website. You obviously can see the devices that they use to visit your website, such as desktop, smartphone, and so forth. Also the software that is used. Apparently most of my visitors still use Windows 10. And furthermore, also the visiting times when there are most of the visitors. By the way, as you can see, this dashboard is in English. And also the time settings. These are related to your WordPress settings. So if your WordPress user account is using the English language, this will be in English. And at last, you can look into user IDs, but because of the privacy, I haven't set this up, so there's no data to show here. Then we have the behavior section, in which we can see the actual behavior through pages, and also how people are moving through your website. So which are the entry pages and also which are the exit pages. This is based on URLs. It's also that you can see the same data, but then based on actually the titles. There are a couple of things you can see when looking into a certain page. And this is pretty interesting, the transitions, so the actual flow of your users. So in this case, 1/3 of the users is coming from the home page and going through this page, which is about the best WordPress control panels. And then the ones that are moving first are looking into these pages. And obviously a majority of them is going to the Run Cloud WordPress review, which is the best listed control panel on this page. So that makes a lot of sense. You can also see from the amount that's coming from the search engines, and also the ones that are going out of this page. And another interesting fact that I can see that a couple of users is saving this page in their Pocket account for later reference. And nevertheless, let's close this. It's I think very interesting statistics. It's also possible to see this by a visitor and even view a visitor profile. So it goes pretty detailed. Let's close this down. You can also see the performance of the page, so how fast it actually loaded. And this can also give you some insight in how well your website is optimized. And at last, you can also see how these visits in this case changed over time. I think I must say I really love this feature. Also the transition feature I think is very helpful. You can see it in here. Keywords are not reported for site search because it has not been set up in here. Here you can see the amount of outlinks that has been collected. I'm using GitHub a lot, so it makes also a lot of sense. The downloads, there is no report, as well as for events, because I didn't set up any events nor downloads. In the content section, again, there has not been setting up, and again for engagement, also not so much has been set up except for the visits. And you can of course see some more engagement data below, such as how many pages are visited, how long the average visit duration is. About the page is a bit low, and also how many visits are regular, so recurring visits, and how many of these visits are new. Then we have the transitions functionality. We saw this before, and it is also on a separate page. So for each page, I can see the transitions and see how people enter these of the pages, and also how they exit these of the pages. And at last, there's a performance section in which I can see the average load time for each of these pages. The acquisition panel is talking about how visitors got on my website, and according to Matomo, more than half of the visits is direct entries, and somewhat lower than half of the visits is coming from search engines. You can also see how much of them are coming from campaigns, from social networks, and so forth. I can also focus on one of these items. Obviously, there are more of these sections in here, so I can see from which websites people are coming, from which search engines. Unfortunately, keywords are not anymore defined. I believe the search engines are not passing that data anymore. But still, it would have been helpful if it would be there. The website section is actually listing the websites that are referring to my site, which are my personal sites, and one external site. And the social networks is a basic pie chart that lists how many visitors are coming from external social networks. Then we have campaigns and campaign URL builder, It can be used for these UTM tags. You may be familiar with it, but I haven't been using it in this case, so there's not much data to show. There's also an e-commerce section, which is in my case empty because I'm not running an e-commerce site, but you can use this to set up your e-commerce goals and see how your website is doing in terms of e-commerce. So I think, again, a very nice feature. It's great that this is available. And there's also a goal section in which you can add new goals and think of goals of certain conversion goals. So a user clicks on a button, or a form is filled in, or a user is entering a certain landing page, which you can also see here when you can add a new goal. You can specify these goals. You're just visiting an URL, downloading a file, sending an event, clicking on a link, etc. So this is basically a review for the Matomo dashboard, and I think this is one of the alternatives. This is, I think, the most complete package, and I'm actually pretty impressed that this is just a free WordPress plugin. So let's move on to the next package, and that's a Fathom, and it's basically a very clean and simple website analytics without any compromise. It's focused on privacy and also on simplicity. It's a Canadian company, but you can have your analytics hosted in the European Union if privacy is important. It has a fast script, and well, this is how the dashboard look like. We'll look into that in a moment. It's also used by a couple of companies. It is priced. It starts at $14 a month for around 100,000 page views, which I think is fair pricing. Most of these companies have a similar pricing model. So let's see how my website did the past week actually. So here we are. This is my dashboard in Fathom Analytics from the last week, and well, as you can see, I had around 500 visitors, 750 views, and they were not really long on the site. Of one page, which is visited really well. Most people come from Google, some other search engines, and WP Johnny. Thank you, Johnny. Also brings in some referrers. And furthermore, in Fathom, we can see the device types, the browsers, the countries, many people from Russian, interesting. And also we can see event data. We can add a custom event. And then we can use this JavaScript code to actually track this goal. So, and I need to install this JavaScript code on my website, and then it will track this goal. So for this you need to know some development experience. Nevertheless, it's also possible to track your UTM tags. As you may be familiar, you can add UTM tags to an URL. For example, if you're running a Facebook campaign or an advertising campaign, you add UTM tags on the back of this URL, and then these can get registered here. I'm not using it, but it's useful that it I've used Pocket. So this site is actually someone added a page from my site probably to get Pocket, which is a web application that can be used to save websites. Interesting to see. But in here you can arrange all things around UTM. So in short, that's what Fathom does. It's really simple. It's much more simple than, for example, Matomo. You can also click on a page for further insight, but basically that's it. So really clean, really neat, but limited in functionality. Then we have GoSquared Analytics, which is part of GoSquared, and that also has other kind of services. They have a very clean dashboard overview with content and search, and There's also a clear video in here. I think it's a very neat package. It's priced reasonable for £9 a month for 1000 page view and 3 projects, which are like 3 websites, and it goes up to 20 projects. And it has features such as real-time metrics, all the important pages, visitors, bounce rates, and search registered, and so forth. And it can also connect to other services such as WordPress, which I've been using. In this case, you can connect it to Google Tag Manager and so forth. So how did GoSquared do with my website? Well, I actually installed it, but found the data pretty limited. This is all I got from 7 days of installation. There's not so much data showing up in here, and I don't know how this is possible. Actually, it seems that it only started doing analytics after I logged into this dashboard. I can see where a visitor is looking at, and that the visitor came from Pocket, and also which pages are viewed. So the statistics are a bit limited here. I don't know why. It's a bit weird. So probably it has to do with the trial mode, but I expected more of this, but I still think it's a neat package. Also, if you look to the overview, well, you see that these analytics are in there, which is, I think, quite nice. If I look at my setup, it's a bit more limited. And by the way, on the left, you can also see the other services that GoSquared is offering. So just a brief overview, and let's move on to the next. And that's Simple Analytics, and Simple Analytics is really simple. It reminds me of Fathom, the analytics suite we used before. So here we are, and I will just briefly show the features directly on my website. And I started collecting actually from a week ago. So let's look for a week. And well, this is basically what Simple Analytics is: an overview of all your visits, referrals. So I can click on this referral and see what pages Google referred to. And also the top referral pages. Close it down. I can also zoom in on a certain page and see what devices, browsers, and countries are using this page. A lot from Kazakhstan, interesting, and the United States. Also the time on page, the page views and visitors is viewable here, and if you close it down, it will apply to all pages on the website. So again, this is very simple. You won't see any heat maps, funnels, big time goals, A/B testing, or keywords in here. It makes it very pleasant to use, but also again a bit limited. There is also a possibility to add custom events in it, so you can track events, and there are a couple of settings in here in which you can change the way how data is processed, and you can export your data and also do some rounding and such, and change your time zone. So I think it's a very neat package, pretty clean. Let's just see. Well, the pricing started at 22, I think €23 a month, and this is a starter package actually. All right, let's move on to the next package. This is Plausible, another Google Analytics alternative, and it's very similar to the other ones, but it has a kind of different, more lightweight design, and the goal is to serve simple and clean analytics, opposed to Google Analytics, and they're also focused on privacy. So it's compliant with most of the privacy laws, and it is also very easy to set up and very lightweight. So how does it look like? Let's just briefly look. The pricing model, it starts at €9 a month for 10K page views, and then neatly scales up from 19 to 29 and so forth. By the way, in the post attached to this video, there's also an article about these Google Analytics alternatives where you can see the pricing compared between these. So let's see how it looks in the backend. So this is how it looks in the backend. Very clean analytics. My browser is in dark mode, so again you will see these things in the dark mode. Again, you can see top sources, the unique visitors, bounce rate, the average visit duration, so the pages that are visited most. In here there's also a nice map instead of a list, and which I think is neat. You can also see which cities or regions a lot of visitors come from. Furthermore, the devices that are used, browsers and the operating systems. And we can also zoom in on the page and then see actually what the statistics for this page are, and also the referrals and such. Furthermore, it's possible to see campaigns, so how your campaigns are doing. There's no data yet because I'm not using campaigns. And there is another possibility actually to add goals. You can also change the time range. But again, as you see, these are pretty simple and neat analytics, no advanced reporting, but this may be enough for a majority of the people who just want to know how many visitors are on the website. So let's move on to the next one. And the next one is Cloudflare Web Analytics, and they're offering free analytics if you have your domain set up at Cloudflare, which takes a little bit technical effort, but it's very easy to add if you already have a domain in Cloudflare. Otherwise, you need to install a script on your pages. It is also said that it's lightweight and also actually focused on privacy first, although they're not saying that they're really compliant with any of the most prevalent privacy laws. So that's an interesting take. I'm not probably they are, because they're not using cookies or local storage or any other metrics. So I think they're still focused on privacy, but they're not mentioning compliancy, which I think is interesting. They're also an American company, which may be a drawback. Nevertheless, let's see how my website did in Cloudflare. And there we are. These are the statistics for my my website in Cloudflare. Again, a similar amount of visits. And we can easily switch to the referrers, the hosts, countries, which are people coming from. On the near graphs, you can also see a map. You can see which pages are visited most, which is quite consistent with the other actual items. You can also see more items in here, and also the browsers and such that are used. The neat thing is that it also will show the page views for the given site, and also the page load time is another insight, which is and this gives some more insight in how to optimize your website. So this is another piece of analytics that I didn't find some merging the other packages, which I think is nice. They even have a section with the core web vitals that can be used to optimize your website further, and I think it is already doing pretty well, so not bad. So this is Cloudflare Analytics. Again, very simple analytics, but I think it's neat. It's nice, clean and simple. And the great thing is that it's also free. Let's move on to the next. By the way, if you want to use one of these analytics alternatives, there are these each have documentation on how to install it on your own website. These each have documentation on how to use their WordPress plugins if they have one. Some have a WordPress plugin, and it makes using it a lot easier. So don't feel afraid to try one. Then we have 66 Analytics, and this is a package you need to install on your own server. You can buy it for just $80, and then have analytics at your fingerplay. And you can also even use this to set up your own analytics business, so you can sell something like Google Analytics to other people. It looks pretty nice. It has actually some basic statistics, such as pages, countries, campaigns, goals tracking, Also countries where people are coming from, session replays. So we talked about this before, that you actually can see how a visitor travels to your website, and also heat maps, what parts are visited most for your pages. And because you host this on your own server, the data is owned by you. The good thing is that you only need to pay $80 once, and then you have the package, and you have no further cost despite running a server. The bad thing is that you need to run a server, and also if you want to keep your stats and such, you need to have backups and such of your server. It also has some features to add websites, add users, create pages, and even plans, add themes, Facebook login, Google login, and such. So it's a quite elaborate platform actually that allows you to set up an analytics suite. I think it's nice if you're a bit more technical oriented, and it's not really that hard to install. So how did my website do? Oh, this is the dashboard. Again, pretty similar in its page views and visitors as the other packages. You can also see which pages are visited most and from which countries. There's this nice section with goals, in which I can create new goals if I wish. For example, I could create a goal for this page if any people are visiting this page, and there we are. We have a goal for visitors on the contact page. There's real-time analytics. Currently there's no one visiting my website. What a bummer, too bad. And there's also possibility to add multiple websites easily in here. There's also like more an admin view, which is kind of on top of this, which is another dashboard in which you can also add users, and you can assign websites to users, so users will only see their own websites. So this can also be used to host analytics for clients and give them the possibility to add and modify analytics, which I think makes this a really nice package. Yeah, and you can also create teams in which you can into which you can assign websites. So all people in this team can only visit the websites that they see. And well, that's simple. By adding an email, you can add a new member. Well, if we look to the features again, basically it shows the pages, referrals, countries, operating system, and so forth. Quite similar as the other packages. Okay, let's move on to another alternative, and that's actually WP Statistics. And this is a plugin which you can install in WordPress. And my channel is mainly about WordPress, so it makes a lot of sense to also use this. And basically what it does, it collects the traffic of your website. They have a couple of add-ons also available, also a lot of add-ons, but their basic package is already pretty powerful. These are all paid, obviously. There's a good demo and also some nice documentations on some basic parts in here. So I think it's a nice package, and I will just show you how it looks like because that says the most. I installed this on my own WordPress website, so here we go. So here we are. This is the package for WP Statistics installed here, and it's now running some time. It captures your hits for all the pages and also the visitors. It gives a nice overview in which pages are visited most, and this is quite similar to the other packages we saw. Only this is now reporting for a longer time, so you'll see some more visits in here. You can see the browsers, search engine referrals, IPs that visited my website. You can also turn that off and anonymize IPs. There's a section with hits, which is similar to the hit section, and you can more narrow it down to certain time ranges. You can see who's online right now, and there's no one online. You can see some more information about your visitors, where they're coming from, which IPs and which browsers. And as you can see, I now hashed their IPs, so they're not visible anymore. You can see from what sources people came. and also which search words were used, but this one is not really elaborate. I think this is not factually correct. It's not showing all search words. In addition, you can see the search engine that drove traffic to your website, and also see which pages did best. Again, the control panel page. And well, there are a lot of other statistics. Then you can see this for categories, tags, authors, also see the browsers, platforms, and top visitors today. It's really nice that this runs in your WordPress website. The drawback is that all these statistics are saved in your WordPress database, so it will have some impact on performance. If you have a lot of statistics, obviously this will make your database larger, and that will have influence on your performance. It's also possible to export the date or clear the date after a certain time, so that makes it also more compliant with privacy laws and makes your database in the end leaner or cleaner. And nevertheless, there are also some other options. Configure this plugin, and I think this plugin is pretty elaborate. It has privacy options. You can set up notifications and reports to your email. You can change and disable the dashboard. You can see which people can. You can determine which people can see statistics. You can exclude certain user rules from data collections. It's also possible to connect this with WP CLI, which is a command line tool used by developers, and also use GeoIP for more correct location information from visitors. You can purge all the data in a daily as a daily job, which keeps your database clean, and also reset this plugin. And I think this is a very nice package, because this is the free thing I did install, and the add-on already have most of the statistics I would need actually. So nice packages. I didn't find a goal and campaign tracking that straightforward, but probably it's also in there. So what do you think of these Google Analytics alternatives? Is there anything good in it that can compare to the real full Google Analytics suite? Well, I think there are some pretty good alternatives, and I hope this video will help you to make an informed decision and to go for a privacy-friendly, powerful analytics package. So thank you for watching, and if you have any questions, comments, feel free to leave them in the comments below. I also wrote an extensive article about this topic. It's also in the description of this video.